Hi everyone, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here with another PB&J card class. This video is actually number 6 in a series of 12 in our New Year New Sketches video series, and I can't believe that we are like at the halfway point already. I hope you are having fun. If you have a favorite sketch we've done so far, I would love to know about it down below. So here is a look at today's sketch. This sketch features our edger die cut, so it's a sentiment die cut with some butterflies. So I just decided to completely indulge myself and use a couple of my favorite things together, the edger and the butterflies. And I love with the edger designs, it gives you a lot of opportunities for sort of tucking elements, and that's where the butterflies come in place. Now if you're doing these for Christmas cards, you could tuck snowflakes in there. Birthday cards, you could tuck die cut balloons. So just you can make this work for whatever you are inspired to use. So just a mention before we get creating, I do have an ebook available with all of the sketches from this video series. That's 12 sketches and 36 card ideas, and I will link that for you down below if you would like to show your support. So I went ahead, I had my envelope with all of my sketch elements prepared, and then I went and stamped everything. So on this piece, I have stamped Penny Black's Enchantingly stamp. This is one beautiful stamp. I love this. I've stamped it onto Canson 140-pound cold press watercolor paper using Memento Toffee Crunch ink, and I'm going to paint this using my Distress Ink Reinkers used as watercolors. So that's what I was just showing you before. I've got them on a palette, and then I just have a cup of water and a paper towel handy off to the side. Now, if I am thinking ahead, I will sometimes try and paint my background if I'm kind of in the mood for sort of a background look. And so that is what I'm doing here. I knew I wanted to do these in red because they're just so beautiful. I had to do some red with them. And so red is definitely a color that is gonna easily blend and bleed and stain your paper. And so if you want a background color, I highly recommend try and do that first. So I've done that, and then I'm just lightly inking over the top of that using that Memento Toffee Crunch ink just to sort of tone that down. It gives it a slight turquoise look when you put it over blue, and I just really like the effect of that. So now I'm going to begin painting the flowers. I'm picking up the re-inker from my palette, and so it's most concentrated. It's coming right off the palette, and I'm putting it where I want the color to be darkest. Then off camera, I rinse off my brush, pat it dry, and go back and blend. Now with this particular image, there are a lot of layers and a lot of petals, so what I find is if I do 2 or 3 at a time, it just goes a little bit quicker. Also, leaving a touch of white at the tips of the petals will make it more dynamic and easier to paint those layers that are right up next to each other. So if you don't get that wet or get any paint there, then you can do the layer that's right next to it. I also keep my heat tool handy to dry in between. That way it helps the colors or each petal not start blending and bleeding into the one that's right next to it, and then you can end up with just a very flat looking color. So this is just a way to really make that dimensional. Leaving some white at the tip of the petals is probably the most helpful thing that I find when I'm painting these, and it really speeds up the process. Can also go back in like I'm doing here and darken up some of those little areas where another petal would be going over the top of it. I hope that makes sense. I will link for you down below a more detailed video about my watercoloring process. So if you have any questions about that, make sure you check out that video. It goes much slower and gives a lot more details. I will list also for you down in the YouTube description box everything that I'm using today, so all of the stamps, the inks, the paper, paintbrush, and all of the colors I am using to paint these in. And of course, all the stamps and dies are listed and linked for you. So check out that YouTube description box. There's going to be lots of things for you. If I mention in the video, it is going to be listed for you down below. So you can see I'm just working my way around that flower, and it actually goes pretty quickly. And if you don't get it all exactly right, like you combine 2 petals together, one, the Toffee Crunch ink will still show the line so it won't look like a blob, and 2, it's so much detail that nobody's going to notice. So don't stress over it. Just leave a little white at the tips and really it'll work out. So I wanted to show you this little bud over here too. I do that center part darker. And so that's the more concentrated ink right from the palette. And that you can see there on these outer ones, I put it more concentrated there, blend it up, leaving a little touch of white. Turning my card, so that just helps me get the paint where I want it. So don't be afraid to turn things as you're painting. Get a different angle on it. You can see there where I left a little bit of white, and that just adds so much life. I've used this stamp a lot in this video series, so if you are looking for a beautiful flower stamp that you can use, it doesn't have to just be for love theme cards or Valentine's. I mean, you can use this all year round. This is top fave for me. And I'm just going back in and darkening this up so that it really is a lot darker, and I like that contrast there with the white that's right next to it. So I just did all the other roses in that same way, and then I'm going to follow the same process here on the leaves. So I'm just putting that concentrated color closest to where I want it to be darkest. So that leaf, it's kind of folding over, so that area that's going underneath would be darker. If you aren't sure where it would be darker, I find with leaves, if I just do darker towards the stem, that often works really good too. So I'll show you another one here, darker towards the base of the leaf. So the more concentrated color there. Also, I'm kind of going around the edges because this color is somewhat similar to the background color. The background color was Broken China Reinker, and this is Evergreen Bough. And then I'll bring in just a touch of forest moss around those edges so that the leaves pop off that background just a little bit more. And then I'll put a little bit here. Try to remember to leave a little bit of white or very light color along the tip of that folded over part. And then lastly, I'll just use that Evergreen Bough to paint over the stems. There's not much there, but it really will finish things off. Now I also have these butterflies. I'm sorry, it's just a little bit, the color's off a little bit, I think because it's just all white. But I put them on a piece of masking tape, and I'm just going to paint those too. That way I can have these prepped in advance. So there, the color's a little bit better. And once that was dry, I'm going over lightly with the Toffee Crunch ink. Just kind of unifies the entire design. Now for the top part of the card, I'm going to again paint with that similar color as the same color as what I used down below in the background. A little bit more concentrated towards the top and blending it out. Now the bottom part of this won't even show, so I'm not too worried about that. I will dry that and then ink over the top using that Toffee Crunch ink blending tool and a foam pad, starting off the edge and working my way on in a circular motion. And you can see there how that all ties together. Now I wanted to add just a little bit of subtle sort of visual texture. So I'm using our script stamp to stamp this, and just that top part. And I use some Aquamarine Archival ink. Picked that just because of the color. And then I also stamped Toffee Crunch over the top of that. So just to sort of keep that sort of Toffee Crunch-ish vibe going on the card. Now this is the Cherish word that goes with the edger die. So it cuts the border at the top and then the actual word that fits right up into that border. Because when I prepared my sketch envelope, I didn't know exactly what colors I was going to use on this card or even what stamps. I just cut everything from white, and then I can go back and paint it to match as I make the card. So I just put that across some masking tape and on a piece of paper, and I can easily paint it. I cut extras because I do like to layer up a couple together for dimensions. So I'm just putting some glue down on the extra one and then layering that on top. I find it's easy to kind of pick it up and slide those together. And Just so nice. I love the Cherish too because I feel like you can use that for lots of different occasions. And there is a builder stamp set that goes with it with secondary sentiments that you can use it for friendship, lots of different things. So really nice word to have in your edger collection. So I'm just gluing that onto the panel. You can see where that border was cut with the other part of the die, and that will just nestle right up in there. Now I'm popping this up on foam tape, and you can see I love having those butterflies there because it just adds some movement, and you can tuck them behind that die cut edger die. So here is the finished card. And then some other ideas using this sketch. Here up at the top, I use an embossing folder for texture, position the butterflies a little bit differently, pulling some of those down into the main image. And here I actually trimmed off the Cherish edger design so that I could nestle in those cute critters and some butterflies above. This is definitely my favorite card of this bunch. I love those roses, but I also really like these critters here looking up at the butterflies and with their heart. I'd love to know which one is your favorite. And on this one, I like that embossing at the top. But let me know which one's your favorite down below. And have you tried our edger dies? I would love to know if you have. Also, what other words do you think would be good for the edger dies? Leave us a comment below. We're always wondering what you are thinking. Thanks so much for watching and happy stamping.